When we look at major investors across the wellness ecosystem, there are a few bigger than the hospitality and spa marketplace. The biggest investor, and certainly what we believe are market leaders in terms of the adoption, promotion of wellness initiatives or wellness programs, are Accor, a truly phenomenal global group. We're joined with Emlyn Brown now, Global Vice President of Wellbeing across all of Accor's properties. Looking forward to a great conversation. We'll be back just after a quick message from our sponsors. Emlyn, many thanks for joining us here today. It's great to see so many different parts of our industry reopen, some slowly, some quickly, but we are getting there. As a global employer, you must be seeing this where you've obviously had to let go so many staff in the past 12 months. Now you are bringing them back in as the recovery begins. How is this process of getting the people back into your properties? How is this? Is it a talent war in shorts? How are you trying to get people back in so that we can recover together?
I think it's a really good question, Ross. And I think firstly, yes, unfortunately, our industry suffered quite considerable impact in relation to the COVID situation and is still obviously suffering from that in different regions. Some regions coming back in a much stronger way, some people coming back in a not so strong way. But we're gradually going to start to move towards a more stabilized situation. And actually, we're all hunting and seeking that. I think in terms of talent, of course, there was an impact. There was an immediate impact to furlough, in some cases to reduce manning at certain levels as we close down operations. And now they're coming back open again. Naturally, Accor's priority is to make sure we're bringing back our Accor people as quickly as we possibly can. And we're making significant efforts to do that. I think that in terms of a talent war, I wouldn't say that particularly. I think that probably the biggest concern for our industry, not Accor, but our industry globally, fitness and also spa, is in the meantime, I think many of our talent will be questioning, well, do I want to return back to this industry? Is there other opportunities for me to take my skills and actually use those skills in other areas? And I think that's maybe where the challenge is. So the assumption that talent will return to us without specific, let's call it not assurances, but a specific idea of career path and where I'm going with this and what am I doing with this, and is this the right thing for me to go? A lot of people have a lot of time to contemplate what their direction is, what they want to do from work, how they want to work. And so we're naturally going to see, I think, a number of senior talent, particularly maybe going into other fields where their skills are actually really strongly desired. At the same time, that allows us then the ability to then work and bring through fresh talent, younger talent, people who get career progression. I think the opportunity post this will be some accelerated career progression, some new opportunities, and some new places for people to work. I think one of the things that we'll certainly see a change of is that employment will become much more hyper-localized. And I think that, having benefited for over 20 years from the expatriate assignments to, China and Southeast Asia and certain places like this, I think that they'll get a little bit fewer and far between, just being very, very frank. But at the same time, that breeds also opportunity. I think when people come back to work, back to any organization in fitness, within spa, within everything else, there may be a new expectation for what work looks like, in terms of actually how they can work and what they can physically do in terms of their flexibility, particularly within corporate roles and different locations like that. I think also at the same time, there needs to be a very clear understanding that, again, bringing people back, we can hire them back on our value and our vision and our mission. We can probably strengthen our team members. We can use this period now as a complete reset for our businesses, and maybe take them in a very, very different direction from a commercial perspective and from a manning and a labor perspective. But again, could be quite interesting for us from a P&L perspective. So yeah, that's a little bit my ideas about that sort of landscape.
Obviously, the future is very bright for the wellness industry now. We're seeing this more health-conscious consumer. They're willing to pay more for well-being and fitness services. Emlyn, you've got quite a kind of a beneficial point of view. You're looking at wellness and well-being from a kind of macro viewpoint across a multitude of different parts of the ecosystem. Looking down at that growing ecosystem of brands and services, where do you see growth happening most over the next 1 to 2 years?
Well, I think that, we were always benefited and blessed, both within the hospitality industry, but also within the wellness industry, of this sort of mega trend that was developing globally. And that's only been accelerated, I think, in what I call a post-COVID landscape. We believe that this will be like a super acceleration for the adoption of wellness and well-being practice across all demographics, okay? And the key areas for that will probably be 4 or 5-fold. I think that firstly, we know that exercise and fitness is already now a predominant element of a younger generation of demographic. That's going to accelerate. That's going to go through all demographics as people clearly understand that they need to take a stronger adoption of their own health and well-being practice in order to maintain their own health and well-being. So health is wealth, and the idea of, let's call it preventative rather than curative, becomes even more mainstream than before. We understand we need to boost our own immunity systems. That goes more centralized. We can no longer really rely on, let's call it, governmental curative health practices to do that. We're going to take a lot more ownership about that, right? And that's going to be an expectation. And fitness, most definitely, is going to be a way to do that. So I think there's some really exciting opportunities for exercise and fitness going forward in stronger adoption. I think that 2 other primary areas for us in hospitality is that nutrition goes mainstream, both into not just the health idea, but the real benefits of nutrition, from different dietary practices, from keto to intermittent fasting to macrobiotics, really becomes part of the normalized narrative, right? So the educational element and the understanding of the importance of nutrition, from gut health and our overall well-being, really goes mainstream. That's going to impact food and beverage, restaurants and delivery, but that really goes to the center stage and not sort of on the periphery of what used to be the buffet. Whether that comes back or not is a different question, right? In terms of that. So the expectation from our consumers on the nutritional side is definitely going to accelerate. There's opportunities within that space within hospitality. I think mindfulness, the idea of creating a new operating system. So we know that, there's significant stress on us, emotional stress, duress, concerns about the way we're living, what's going on in the future, combined with the impact of overuse of technology, means we're going to need to embrace mindfulness in a stronger way, whether that's a moment of pause in a forest, or simply staring at a wonderful piece of art, or adopting a really stronger sort of TCM mindfulness meditational practice or use of an app. Again, that becomes a really important factor for our guests. We will need to try and meet that demand in some sort of form and way. I think that also, lastly, that for us as an organization, like anybody else, the shift to digital now is accelerated beyond. So we're going to have to find digital solutions for our guests and our consumers. The great thing about that is it allows our guests to tap into wellness and well-being while on a property in a different way, that's in room or outside the location. They can also take that well-being home with them, and that's reflected in some of our partnerships we worked on with like 3 Sages or Les Mills, for example, and other ones coming up. And so that acceleration of digital across all of our industry is going to be, I think, where the main area and pivots going to be for us,
Let me skip first of all into the last point there, which is technology. There has been such a huge digital acceleration throughout COVID now, but let's look at wellness technology, perhaps a space that only a few years ago was maybe only owned by 2 or 3 companies. And now you're getting a lot of startups coming into this space, offering a whole range of different services. What are your thoughts on the wellness technology sphere at this moment in time? Are you following certain companies? Are you following certain platforms? What are you looking at?
I like it. I embrace it. Maybe I'm one of my only colleagues that really is a big fan of this type of element, because I see a number of opportunities, great opportunities. I think the first area I see opportunity is the embracement of use of technology and equipment to accelerate, let's call it biohacking or wellness acceleration or whatever we want to be. And so I really like the idea of infrared sauna, cryotherapy, flotation, going back to things like lymph drainage, but assisted by equipment, combined into a package, into a isolated cryotherapy, all in one space, in one package, where you can visit and take part in a wellness circuit on a regular sort of visitation, to really enhance your wellness and well-being, that uses these traditional ideas of basically hot and cold, right? But now using equipment to deliver it in a much more efficient way. And that's exciting because it's a low labor cost, high yield delivery. It's very much in demand from our customers. And it ties into a number of areas, wellness and recovery, and people want to train like an athlete. They also most definitely want to recover like an athlete now. And so these centers, I think, are really interesting. And that combination of tech, I think, is really, really a great space to be in, and definitely one we're moving into. I think secondly, obviously, app-based elements of content is really quite exciting. It allows our guests to take content home, to exercise at home. We're definitely going to see an impact where, let's say, on the health club industry and on the fitness industry, there's going to be an absolute demand. If I'm a member of a club, and believe me, I don't think club experiences are going to go away anytime soon, but there's going to be a need for them to have that at home as well. And so tying into partnerships like Les Mills or Yoga International, the two of the things that we're looking at very, very closely, to allow our guests to access really, really strong content, I think is definitely a pivot for us from a hotel perspective that we definitely need to embrace. I think obviously wearables and trackables become much the norm. The ability to then read that technology and then use that information in a much more stronger way to deliver a stronger wellness experience is going to go absolutely mainstream. So when you walk into a spa, you'll say, well, look, show me your Apple stats the last 3 or 4 days. Let's tailor a treatment and a treatment protocol towards those specific stats for you. That's interesting and exciting, right? So it takes the idea of consultation to a sort of new level, if we can then embrace and incorporate some of those different types of things into the way that we approach things. There's also a space to say, well, look, at the same time we embrace wellness and technology, we've got a bit of a dichotomy going on, because we're also saying, get off your apps, get off your phones, get off your technology and have that moment of pause. And there's definitely a place for that too, all right? I think the idea of saying to a guest and a customer, completely remove yourself from technology is probably a little bit gone now. But the idea of trying to make people, take a moment away from it is also an area that as an industry we should continue to strongly uncover. There's lots more also going on, I think, within the sleep space. And I think that for a hotel company, the exciting area is how can we enhance sleep? How can we enhance people's rest? If you think about hospitality and hotels in the simplest possible form, we should be the best at helping people sleep, right? A large amount of our business is based around rooms and the 12 to 13 hours that you spend within those rooms, okay? And so for a hotel company and brand to own the sleep process and do that in a much more structured way and provide feedback to our customers, either via the mattress, via apps, but create the environment to really enhance that 8 or 9 hours of sleep, which we now know is so vital to recovery. I think that's a really interesting space that we're looking into, particularly with our brand like Swiss Hotel, with our sort of, again, our vitality room, which is based all around those elements of enhancing well-being within the room space. So lots of interesting things that you need to be selective about what it is you want to do. But, it's definitely there's a massive opportunity for us as a hotel company.
Let's look maybe at your traditional fitness floor within a given property, Emlyn. Of course, over the past few years, people have had to redesign, reconceptualize, rethink these. I know that Accor have been at the very front of trying to put some really pioneering, some unique experiences in here. How is that evolution going to continue? How are you going to try and continue to redesign, re-energize these spaces in your properties?
I think it's a great question, Ross, and I've got personal and professional opinions on this, which I'll try and share in a way that I think is beneficial for the audience. I think that 3 out of 4 of our guests, doesn't matter what brand they're coming to, whether it's from an IBIS or through to a Raffles, wants to make a daily step to improve their health and well-being. That's well documented by Accor. It's part of our wellness white paper we released last year. The best way and the easiest way to get to our guests is through our fitness delivery, either in-room, in our fitness spaces, in our gyms, but also outdoor and externally, right? That's the way we can reach the broadest demographic, okay? And we know that the younger demographic coming through, fitness is an absolute norm. It's not even a conversation piece, and it's not a differentiator, right? So we need to also be applying and democratizing exercise and fitness across all of our brands, and we're definitely working to do that, all right? Coming from the healthcare and fitness industry, coming into the hotel industry, there was a significant gap in what we're delivering in many cases as an experience, all right? Particularly the last 5 to 6 years when we've seen the super acceleration of boutique fitness, and it's sort of like breakaway tribal elements of very, very specific types of, F45 to Soul Cycle to Barry's Boot Camp to whatever else we're talking about, okay? And the interior design for that, the equipment choice for that, the type of exercise that we're doing has become much more sophisticated. It's moved away from the sort of 45 to 60 minute pounding of cardio to really getting into free weights and kettlebell and different types of exercise. And it's a wonderful landscape to be in. Hotels are not in that landscape, right? If we look at the design and the development of our hotel spaces, if you speak to look at many of our designs, lining up cardio with a nice view on the 23rd floor is not a differentiator anymore, right? It's not matching and mirroring the exercise experience that our customers are having within at home. So there's a gap that's there. It's also a massive opportunity. And so we've embraced that opportunity with our new Pullman PowerFit concept, which is essentially a boutique fitness concept going into all of our Pullmans globally, highly stylized design, dramatic changes in terms of equipment selection and choice. We're actually cherry picking best in class across our elements, using a video on demand equipment from Active Fitness, stretching and ballistic areas, higher energized types of spaces, ones we can actually deliver a treatment and a class experience within, to really up the ante in terms of that. And that's now starting to spill across all of our design elements for fitness within all of our brands. Excuse me. The other opportunity, I think, that for us is to monetize those spaces. And I think that within a hotel experience, it hasn't really been at the forefront of the mind. We use language like an amenity, and that automatically puts it into a non-revenue generating bucket. And those days are now gone. We need to maximize the income from every element of our square meters within our hotels. And I think that looking at things like the sort of, let's call it high value, low price membership models, whereby you go online, you buy a 5 ticket, a 10 ticket, a 1 ticket, a 1 month, a 6 month, ultra flexibility and use of facility with basically zero labor cost. That's very interesting, right? When you think about us as a company, we've got 5,000 hotels. And if we had 1,000 of our gyms, even 300 or 400 of our gyms stepping into that type of space, that would be very interesting for the health club industry for us to be competing within. And the opportunity is definitely there to use technology and use very existing membership systems to start to monetize those spaces and those places. And that's an exciting place for us to be. I think also, thirdly, from a community element, right, that we talk about in hotels, the idea of maximizing community. So the animated bar, the animated lobby, the use of workspace and workplace, exercise plays a fantastic role in that. We've got centralized locations, usually in AA or AAA locations, how we can maximize that with small changes to design or to the entrance or the location of those areas, maybe a slightly bigger footprint, again, gets us into a space where we can bring in local community, get people working out, make them feel happy, make them return, and spend more in other areas of the hotel. So, we're pretty passionate about exercise within Accor and the opportunity that it actually presents for our brands. And we'll keep on looking to move the ante of that, more on the case of reflecting what's happening within the industry of fitness and bringing it into our properties.
What else can we expect from Accor coming up in the next couple of years with regards to fitness and maybe even more so wellness?
Well, I think that probably a couple of areas that I think we're looking to move into is we're very fortunate to have some fantastic assets into the wellbeing and wellness facilities. But I think what we can be doing is animating that in a stronger way. And so very much liking the idea of this, what I would call a traveling destination wellbeing sort of idea, whereby we're actually taking talent to different locations around the world and animating it in a more destination-style spa and wellbeing experience over at specific times of the year. That's an interesting space for us to be moving into, and we're definitely obviously exploring that. We continue to look at how we're looking at membership and exercise experiences and how we can create more of that club experience. So what we're seeing is, I think, previously we see the sort of the spa separated from the health club, from the pool, and it's all a little bit designed in a slightly incorrect way. We're centralizing and creating a much more club experience within our hotels, within our design place. So I guess we've got a real one-stop shop for wellness and well-being in one location. It creates efficiency for us and allows for a more club experience. I have a feeling, maybe I'll share it now, is that big box fitness has sort of gone through a bit of a knocking the last 5 or 6 years. And I think it's going to start to come back. I think people are going to sort of say, look, I want to have a solution that gives me a pool, gives me a spa. I can do this all in one sort of place. Doesn't mean there won't be a place, isn't a place for boutique. Absolutely there is. But I feel for a certain demographic and generation, big box in a more sophisticated way is going to come back in a stronger way. It hasn't really gone away, let's be frank, but it comes back in a stronger way. I think we can capitalize on that with a number of our locations and create this very sort of strong club experience across multiple different brands. We're pursuing, obviously, I think with our Sofitel brand this year, a stronger refresh of its wellness and well-being definition. That's quite exciting. We're looking at going into the mindfulness space, meditation space, and a strong yoga delivery for our M Gallery brand, and continuing to look at ways we can differentiate our brand experience to match and mirror the demands of each of the demographics for those guests. Naturally, we spoke about digital and the embracement of digital. That's going to be a significant part of what we want to do. I would be excited and want to look at how we can approach the nutritional element, really within our food and beverage delivery, that we're having either concepts or menu concepts that really aren't just health, but really are something quite interesting from a nutritional perspective that I guess are going to be demanding. Because again, I think the idea of diet, everyone's got their own diet now. I'm keto, I'm this, I'm that. And that needs to be reflected within what we're delivering from a food and beverage perspective. So lots of opportunity. I think it's about being this. For us, it's me being selective and where the best place to go is based on the return on investment for us and where it maximizes guest experience. And that's probably going to be the biggest challenge, is to narrow down, which direction that we want to go in.
Let's pivot on to travel. Now, wellness tourism was always a growing marketplace before the pandemic hit, Emlyn. And of course, what we are seeing now is flights returning regionally. We will start to see flights again internationally. We will start to see business travel. We will start to see recreational travel. What are your thoughts on the future of wellness travel, both for the businessman and woman and also for the family? Will it see another explosion, and how might things change for that market going forward?
I think that, again, yes, I think, look, we're going to go from a sort of hyper-local, hyper-regional to then international, and the time frame for that could be, between 12 to 15 months to go back to 2019 types of figures, and it all depends on a number of factors. We know we have significant pent-up demand for travel, all right? Within that, we probably even have more significant pent-up demand for some form of wellness travel, okay? And wellness travel now is very broad. I mean, I don't want to be putting certain things in the box that don't deserve to be there, right? But, our resorts are going to benefit significantly from this first burst of pent-up travel. Being outdoor in nature, taking walks, recreational elements are going to become really important to our guests. So I think that resorts that can turn the volume up on that from an experiential point of view of getting people outdoors, getting people doing recreation, getting people moving in a certain way will certainly be attractive for our clients and our guests, and will really be very much in demand. I definitely see, secondly, that specific wellness destinations that naturally have suffered greatly, maybe because of the situation of long haul travel, where other people are flying in from a great distance, will see significant upticks in business, because that demographic, let's say 45 onwards, who says, listen, I want to make a real conscious effort to invest in my health and well-being, will turn to those locations for that 1 week, 2 week, 3 week immersive experience. And we know how strong the repeat business is within the destination well-being locations. So once they come down, I think there'll be a much broadening attractiveness for those types of locations, and people understanding that that investment from a dollar's point of view, it's really, really worthwhile to help them make those changes they can take back and those habit forming changes. I think that for us, from an industry perspective, where maybe the challenge or the focus needs to be would be on our urban locations. So how can they be stronger in terms of attracting day spa and external market? Historically, we've probably relied too much or a little bit too much on internal guest capture, and that's been very successful. That continues. But we're going to now have to pivot towards being really strong luxury well-being day spa business. That's got a very different commercial sensibility and setup. It's got a very, very different sales and marketing plan, very different expectations. We're looking to drive in 75% of your business from external rather than internal. And that's definitely a pivot that we're going on through our education, through our sales and marketing planning, and so on. I think that, lastly, there's probably a really good space for what I would call a semi-destination or wellness resort, where you can start to really expand in a really efficacious way, it's a really authentic way, elements of well-being and wellness destinations into a resort location where you've got visiting practitioner, you've got morning yoga, you definitely have the nutritional elements being taken place, and people that can then actually sort of pick and mix their own well-being experience and journey during the course of their resort. I think a number of resorts are looking at that as a strong opportunity for them. So wellness travel will definitely come back. I think it will be very much on the top of the mind of our clients and our guests going to when they select properties. And those properties that can platform well-being in a stronger way for their existing assets with a slight addition to that in an authentic way, I think will definitely benefit.
You are an executive in a multinational corporation. It's quite a stressful time for anybody, but of course, no doubt you've been working some very demanding hours these past 12 months. What practices, what platforms have you leaned on, have you yourself delved into to make sure these past 12 months have been mentally healthy and physically healthy, and of course, perhaps maybe some personal growth at the same time?
I think I've been as challenged as everybody else when it comes down to this period about maintaining physical, emotional, spiritual well-being, and it's been a real learning curve, right, in terms of that, and I've been through the ups and downs like everybody, certainly work has become Zoom focused and online and use of technology, and the blurring between the home life and the work life because we're all sort of based at home. That's required a certain level of discipline. I think that for me, I've got the bike, I've got the kettlebells, I've got all the stretching and TerraBands. We're booking in the time each day in my diary to make sure I'm just getting off my seat and getting that done rather than the usual trip to the gym. I think for me, I really rediscovered a little bit more the mindfulness and meditative practices that are really important. Using app-based technology. I'm currently using an app called Synctuition, which is like a 3D music landscape that's actually quite fascinating. It drops me off to sleep within 15 minutes, which is quite amazing. And I'm really benefiting from that. It's not only been about exercise and movement. Obviously, you need to get yourself outdoors. I'm really trying to make that a priority in the morning, just get out for that 1 hour walk and get those steps in. But at the same time, there's also been some other discoveries. So again, we rediscovered the idea of cooking. So the weekend's dedicated to really creating and discovering new menus every weekend, right? Which has been really fun. So we're really into Italian food, which is not good for the waistline, but it's good for the soul. And at the same time, I've always been was an avid reader previously. I've really discovered the idea of getting back to reading great books and novels and rediscovering some of that via my Kindle and getting off the social media. So rather than doing the thumb scroll, I'm doing a different type of scrolling that hopefully is a little bit more beneficial for me from an educational and intellectual way. And then lastly, we've turned the volume up on things like podcasting. So listen to some great podcasters like, Rich Roll, for example, from the health and nutritional side. And then on the fun side, a lot of dedication to my FPL Fantasy Premier League team, which we're in the top 75,000 globally right now. It takes a lot of effort. It's about 15 hours a week of time for those selections. So all those things combined has been my period of lockdown.
Good man. Well, look, I really appreciate this time, Emlyn. Really appreciate the insights. Again, you and the Accor team have done such an incredible job of being pioneers and promoters for the entire of the wellness industry on a global basis. So we tip our hat. We thank you very much, and we wish you and the team all the very best going forward.
Yeah, thank you. We're very fortunate that the teamwork and the understanding within our brands and our senior management for the power of wellness and well-being is definitely there. And I think I'm very fortunate and blessed to be part of a group that is really putting well-being at the fore. And so, yeah, thank you very much.
Gearlock 12-hour equipment protectant is a 3-in-1 solution. You can use it to clean, disinfect, and also protect sports equipment. Firstly, you can use it to clean off any visible debris from the equipment. To disinfect, cover the entire surface with the product. The foam bottle works well for balls and smaller equipment, while the spray bottle is a convenient option for larger equipment. Once you've covered the entire surface, the important thing is to allow gear lock to air dry. This is when the innovative quad lock technology works its magic. You see, when gear lock 12-hour sports equipment protectant is applied to the surface, it immediately starts destroying germs. It is effective against a broad range of pathogens, including COVID-19. As it dries, the quad lock bonds to the surface to create a microscopic protective barrier. If you zoomed in, you'd see millions of tiny electrical spears bonded to the surface, ready to destroy any nasties that come their way. When bacteria hits this defensive layer, a very small electrical interaction occurs, which destroys the microbe but leaves the spear intact. It's a bit like if a balloon was to land on a bed of nails. The nails won't budge, but the balloon would be destroyed. The layer is so small that it doesn't impact the playing conditions, but it's deadly to germs. Once the product has had a chance to dry, the equipment is protected against bacteria for up to 12 hours of playing, with no damage to the equipment itself, meaning you can get on with playing the sport you love.